notice how some people seem to keep everyone in neat little boxes? Their friends don't know their family, their coworkers never meet their partner, and no one seems to know the full story. That's not random. In fact, it's often a major red flag of narcissistic behavior. In this video, I'm going to talk about exactly why narcissists keep separate social circles and how it protects their manipulation. This is inspired by a new article making the rounds about 3 potential reasons why Harry never met Meghan's father before the wedding, and how this is a pattern we see again and again in relationships with narcissists. Let's talk about why people like Meghan or anyone using similar manipulation tactics keep people siloed, because this isn't just about estranged parents, it's about image control, emotional manipulation, and keeping people in the dark. But before we begin, here's the intro. Welcome to Revealing the Narc. Join me as I highlight narcissistic traits in celebrities and public figures. Everything here is in my opinion and not professional advice. If you enjoy the analysis, please like and subscribe. The article I'm taking all this information from is titled Meghan Markle Embarrassed, Prince Harry Will See Father Thomas. This was recently published, as you can see from the date, so this story has been making the rounds. The article begins, Meghan Markle hasn't let Prince Harry meet her dad for 3 possible reasons, says an expert. The Duchess of Sussex, who has reportedly never introduced her father to husband Harry, could have important reasons for the same. Royal expert Hugo Vickers tells The Sun, why did Mr. Markle never meet Prince Harry? There can only be 3 reasons for that. 1, that she was ashamed of him, which I think is a bit unattractive. 2, possibly that she thought he'd done something, but when Prince Harry rang Mr. Markle up and asked if he could marry his daughter, he said, you can marry her as long as you never raise your hand against her. I just want to pause here really quick. First of all, this article is not really well written. Like that first reason, one that she was ashamed of him, which I think is a bit unattractive, is the author trying to say that Thomas Markle is a bit unattractive, or is the action of being ashamed of him a bit unattractive? It's not very clear. And that second reason also is not very clear, but it is surprising that a father's standard in husband is so low. You can marry her as long as you never raise your hand against her. It's kind of an odd thing to say. I have to be honest, I remember reading about this in Tom Bower's Revenge and thinking it was weird, but not really reflecting on it. At first glance, it sounds maybe like a protective father setting boundaries, but when you zoom in, the bar he sets is shockingly low. He didn't say as long as you treat her well, or respect her, or support her happiness. He just said, don't hit her. That reveals a few key things. There's a baseline of dysfunction. If your standard for a healthy relationship is no physical violence, it implies that emotional abuse, manipulation, or disrespect might be normalized or overlooked. The second is possible projection. Some people with difficult histories set low expectations because that's what they experienced or what they think is realistic. Third, it's an attempt to look protective without doing much. It gives this appearance of concern while sidestepping deeper emotional accountability or involvement. And fourth, and finally, there's an impact this has on the rest of the world hearing this sentence, because it lowers our expectations potentially for Harry, as if not being physically violent is the best one could hope for in a husband. Let's continue the article. He added, of course, we don't talk like that, so maybe he lives in a world where people have done that sort of thing. And I'm assuming Hugo Vickers is the one that say that. It goes on to say, I dispute that as well. I don't think that's the case. It's such an oddly written article. And finally, the third reason that the author gives is that I think she was worried that he might actually have warned Prince Harry. This is not what you're getting, this girl, noted the expert. And ding, ding, ding. This is the one I lean towards. And I want to go into this and explore this. I want to give you a couple of reasons why this isolation, this separation takes place. I want to give you tips on how to spot this tactic and also how to protect yourself. So let's get into it. The first reason that these silos are built is to control the narrative. Narcissists are masters of image management. They tailor their personality, their life, their story, and even their values depending on who they're talking to. With one friend, they're the funny underdog. With another, they're the victim of a toxic ex. With a new partner, they're the selfless hero who's never been truly loved before. If all those groups of people started talking to each other, the lies and contradictions would unravel fast. So, what do? They isolate each group, they curate access, they gatekeep relationships, because if everyone sees the same mask, the illusions hold. In Megan's case, one uncomfortable phone call could be enough to collapse the illusion that she had built in front of Harry. The second is to avoid accountability. Accountability is a narcissist's worst nightmare. They rely on being the only source of truth in their relationships. If their inner circles merge, inconsistencies can be spotted. Oh, wait, didn't you say you hadn't spoken to your ex in years? I thought you told me your mom was the one who abandoned you. Well, that's not what you told me last week. By keeping people compartmentalized, they avoid this type of scrutiny. Each group becomes an echo chamber that mirrors back the version of reality the narcissist wants to maintain. When circles don't overlap, lies cannot be cross checked. The third is to keep power imbalances. Narcissists exploit different people depending on the person's role. A friend might be their constant rescuer, a partner might be their emotional punching bag, a parent might be their guilt bank, and a coworker might be their competition to sabotage. If these groups interacted, the pattern would be obvious. So the narcissist ensures that everyone stays siloed and no one sees the full puzzle. That way, they stay on top of the power structure, always being the one that's pulling the strings. In Meghan's case, she had the power to control Harry's access to her family. And as a result, Harry depended on Meghan's version of the truth and nothing else. Notice I said Meghan's version of the truth and not Meghan's truth. There is only one truth. That's the definition of truth. I went into this a lot in one of my most recent videos, but anyways, moving on. The next one is to enable triangulation, which is a psychological warfare tactic that narcissists love. I actually just did a video on this topic about Meghan Markle, Victoria Beckham, and Victoria's daughter-in-law, Nicola. I will leave a link to that video in the description of this video because it talks about how to spot it in your own relationships and how to protect yourself from this type of triangulation. Going back to triangulation, this is when someone pits people against each other by feeding each one different information. By creating rivalry, jealousy, or tension between people, the narcissist becomes the center of gravity. You have to go through them to make sense of the world. And as long as the people they're triangulating don't talk to each other, the narcissist stays in control. By isolating Harry from her father, Meghan essentially became the gatekeeper between them. She could say anything. Like, my dad just doesn't care. He would just hurt you. Trust me, you're better off not knowing him. That's classic triangulation, using silence and separation as tools of power. And the final reason for this isolation tactic is to conceal lies or abuses. Perhaps this is the most chilling reason. Some narcissists intentionally block you from people who might expose them. They could say things like, my dad's just too negative. Trust me, you don't want to meet him. Or that friend doesn't understand me the way you do. Or they're toxic. I cut them off and you should too. But here's what's really going on. They're preventing you from hearing a contradictory version of events, a version where you're not the first person they've mistreated. Their family did love them, they just got tired of the drama, and someone else already saw the mask slip. In many emotionally abusive relationships, this kind of isolation is strategic. It cuts off the victim's access to the truth and keeps them dependent on the narcissist's version of reality. If Meghan's father had spoken to Harry, he might have said, this isn't what you think it is. She's not who she says she is. And that possibility, that's a threat to the entire house of cards. Now let's talk about you, because this dynamic doesn't just happen with celebrities. It can happen in your own relationships too. Here are some tips on how to spot it. You're discouraged from talking to certain people. They could say they're toxic, they just don't understand me, it'll cause drama if you meet them. You only ever hear one side of the story. The other person's perspective is always painted as unreliable or dangerous. And you feel like you're constantly filling in the blanks. The person gives you just enough to stay emotionally hooked, but you never see the full picture. And let's end this video on how to protect yourself. The first is talk to people directly. If someone warns you not to talk to them, ask why. Notice the patterns. Are other people in their life also kept apart or villainized? Trust your gut. Confusion, guilt, and isolation are emotional red flags. Real connection doesn't require secrecy. And finally, document what they say. If the story keeps changing depending on who they're with, that's not forgetfulness, that's a strategy. If all of this sounds familiar, take it seriously. Keeping friends and family separate isn't just a quirk. When it's intentional and patterned, it can be a powerful tool of control, manipulation, and abuse. Have you ever had someone in your life who kept everyone at arm's length from each other? Drop a comment and let's talk about it. If you enjoyed this video and you're looking for a meaningful way to support something beyond the screen, I'd love for you to consider making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline in lieu of super chats and super stickers. They provide 24/7 support and resources for people in unsafe or overwhelming situations, whether it's emotional, physical, or just hard to name. If you need to contact them, their information is on the screen, and you'll find a link to donate in the description. Every little bit helps and it means a lot. If this video was interesting to you, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know every time I drop a new video. I want to thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.